look after myself, you know. And I've had enough of this rabble. Come on!
As the chaos spread, the star seemed doomed to unravel, and yet... there were those who stood in defiance of that fate.
The hour is come, Vritra. It's all or nothing.
The stage is set, but will our hero deign to play their part?
You took your time. 'Tis as we feared. The respite afforded this land was but fleeting. The end draweth nigh. I knew it. This star still has secrets to tell. Take care, my friend.
So, Charlian would keep its counsel while the world is lost to ruin.
It would. Come what may, we shall live on. We must.
Do as you must, then. That we scions will fight until the heavens fall, until our last breath.
Past the far edge of fate. Ring blades dark and light. Tolling the coming of the end.
Test. There we go. That is so weird. That took a while for me to figure out. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. I'm not sure why, but OBS decided to disable my mic, and I could not figure out how to undisable it. So we're back now, though. We're good. We're good. Let's see here. Blah blah blah. Let's turn this on. There we go. All right, let's go. Let's go ahead and get back to the title screen. I have just set up a couple of new things here, so that's why I'm kind of going through some weird issues right now. Looks like I are able to. Let's try this. I'll figure it out afterwards, but I just picked up like 3 new pieces of equipment. What else? What did I pick up first? I picked up an Elgato Stream Deck. So basically, now that I'm deciding to stream pretty much, pretty regularly. I decided to start investing in my streaming setup. So I did pick up an Elgato Stream Deck. I've been playing around with it since last night. I picked up also a Litra Beam, right, to improve the lighting, for while I'm streaming on here, right? So, then what else did I pick up? I could have sworn I picked up something else. I keep the lighting keeps like turning off and on, which is kind of annoying. It's a little more than a little, it's pretty annoying, On. There we go. Perfect. We'll have to go with that for now. Let's do mild afternoon. That looks pretty good. Okay, good. Cool. So, yeah, like I said, I picked up a new Stream Deck. I picked up, yeah, what else did I pick up? I picked up a Litra Beam, Logitech Litra Beam to improve the lighting, so hopefully you guys can see me a little bit better. I've changed the mic setup a little bit better, and I could have sworn I picked something else up. I can't remember now. Oh, that's right. I did pick up a capture card. I've actually moved my Xbox here. Clearly, I'm still playing on PC right now for Final Fantasy 14. Now that being said, what's it called? The hope here is that I'll be able to start streaming directly from an Xbox instead of my computer. It's not that my computer can't handle it. It's the fact that, unfortunately, it is friggin' hot here in Southern California. So, my room has been absolutely miserable, during some of the latest stream sessions. I don't know if you can see like a sheen of sweat coming down my face. But it's been getting really, really bad in my room, the last few weeks, primarily because of how hot it is. And so I'm hoping that by switching the gaming load itself to an Xbox, and then turning on a capture card, it'll be less load on my PC overall, and I'll be able to kind of, minimize any sort of heat as well as bugs that'll happen while I'm playing. Okay. So, like I said, the stream is always evolving. Looks like this particular case, I'm adding some hardware on there. Streaming is definitely a little bit harder than I thought it would be, but it's fun. It's a lot of it's very fun to figure all this stuff out. So for all you would-be streamers out there, learn from me, live vicariously through me, and maybe learn from my lessons, right? So anyway, again, my name is Jan Ignacio. I lead the Cybersecurity Gaming Hour, where we game as well as talk cybersecurity. I'll have to come up with a better motto next time. But today we're playing Final Fantasy 14. It's Tuesday. And, I figured we can talk in terms of the topic for cybersecurity. We'll talk a little bit more around, what did I put down? I put down, oh yeah, Azure AD. So, talking a little bit more Microsoft specific. The reason why this, topic came up to me, why it's an idea for me, is because I did see a lot of comments in some of the subreddits I went to for CSSP. I just recorded the reaction, stream and video for the CSSP exam. I swear I'll stop talking about it pretty soon, right? But I wanted to be able to share what information I could while it was still fresh in my mind. So that stream is out there. Go find it in my channel if you haven't seen it, if you want to go take a look at it. But one of the things that I noticed was there were a few folks who, was asking questions around identity access management. And obviously for me, most of my expertise came from the, from working with Azure Active Directory, which is Microsoft's identity as a service offering, right? So we'll talk a little bit about it. We'll keep it high level. I'm not gonna get into it too much because obviously I'm gaming right now. I don't want to whiteboard or anything while I'm playing Final Fantasy 14. But I figure it's a good topic to talk a little bit about. What is identity access management in the cloud and how does that differ from an on-prem? So this might be a little bit more of a technical discussion, but we'll see. We'll get into it as I'm kind of playing through this. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to switch back to my freaking samurai. So let's, I think this is it. Yeah. Oh, do I need to, oh, I'm going to need a, oh, I have to, okay, hold on, wait. Sort, 142, I think this is it. No? Oh, no, I think this is it, yeah. I'm definitely under-leveled. I could, well, it's not that I'm under-leveled, it's that I'm finally hitting endgame for what's called Heavensward, so it's about time I started putting on gear that was a little higher. But let's put all the gear back on. Pretty sure I still kept the gloves. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Okay. And I kept the legs, and I kept the feet, if I remember correctly, right? I don't think I'm carrying a shield. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I don't have anything that's way out of... Basically, for those of you... Okay, yeah, I definitely need to change the feet. Is this it? I guess it is. Yep, this one too. 139. Oh, yep, definitely this one. Basically, I'm looking at the item levels to get myself back up. 130s. So 130s was my normal one, but where I should be is like 270s. So that's going to be my next next to-do thing. And we could probably work on it right now because I could probably just run through some of the duties and start farming. Basically, the currency needed to buy the upgraded gear like this. So far, I've only been able to upgrade all my accessories, as well as the jacket, but I'm still gonna need the helmet. Looks like arm guards or gloves, pants, and the shoes. So we can do that while I'm talking here. Okay. Let's go back here. Probably let's go ahead and list up some of the duties here. Duty roulette, and oh, sorry. And let's join. Okay. All right, while we're waiting around, let's get back over to Land. Nope, let's go back to Fatalshire. Okay, well, in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about identity access management. I keep going back to identity primarily because it's just one of those things that seems to be very pervasive. There's other concepts in cybersecurity that we don't really kind of see in our everyday lives. Threat detection is one of them, right? Like, no one's going to be sitting here. If you're watching the stream and you've already worked with a SIM, then you consider yourself already a pretty experienced, cybersecurity professional, right? Okay, 6 minutes until. Okay, cool. So, but there are some things that even the general populace have worked with from a security perspective. One is username and passwords, right? The one's one-time passwords. We've all had to kind of go through that. And what I usually tell people when I'm first meeting them and they're trying to wrap their heads around what is Azure Active Directory, which has now been renamed Entra ID, right? Let's not get into the renaming scheme. That's a bit of a personal aside for me. But whenever we talk about identity as a service in the cloud, like everyone acts as if this is like this exotic concept, and we're talking about enterprise IT administrators that I've worked with in the past as well, right? They're acting. A few of them have acted like as if this is some new exotic identity, concept. When in actuality, it's really just a continuation of what most of us have learned, managing identity on-prem. Okay. I'm not going to go into on-prem identity management because, frankly, managing identity in the cloud is very simple in comparison to, if you were in the, for example, I was in the military. All of the identities that we had that we use to log into something, what's it called? Was tied to like an identity store that the military, army at the time managed on-prem somewhere out in the United States, right? The reason why we need to talk about identity is because when you log into something, Facebook, social media, productivity tools, right? So OneDrive, Box.com, Office 365, even something as dumb as TikTok or whatever, logging into Twitch to watch my stream or watch other people's stream, right? I think everyone understands and realizes that you're inputting a username and password in order to get in there, right? Now, in a previous stream, we talked a little bit about like the various methods and how identity works in modern authentication now these days, how to make yourself more secure. I talked a little about hardware tokens. I talked a little bit about one-time passwords and the importance of using an authenticator app. But for those of you who are in the IT space and are trying to get a little bit deeper into cybersecurity, you do need to wrap your head around the concept of identity access management, IAM. Okay, it comes in different forms. A lot of other people refer to identity access management in different use cases or different terms. But at its core, all it is basically managing user identities that they will then use to log into whatever it is they need to in order to get access. Now, normally we're talking about it from an enterprise perspective. So when you work for a company, whatever, so on and so forth, you're usually given a username and password to start accessing company resources, right? So it could be something as simple as just simply getting access to your company's files, right? If you're in the creatives, a lot of times when I run into a creative company, they are usually hosting their media files in some sort of shared drive, right? And in order to get access to it, I need to be able to do a few things. I'm not going to go into it too much, but one such example would be, getting a computer that is managed by the company, by your IT administrator. And I'm just moving my video feed around, make it a little bit less blocking the thing, right? So hopefully that works a little bit better. What's it called? Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll move it down here instead. Let's move it down here. You don't really need to see my, there you go. Okay, that's a little bit better. Cool. You don't really need to see my inventory or anything like that anyway, right? To go back to my previous example, like, when you first join the company, in order to access, like, that shared drive where all the files are at, worksheets, media, sound files, all that stuff, you need to, you're going to need, a good example for a company that kind of controls access to that would be, one, it's hosted internally within the company's internal network. And then two, they require certain controls in place in order for you to access it, right? You can't just simply plug your computer into their Ethernet network or join their Wi-Fi system and then expect to get access to those files, right? Some examples are some companies will restrict access to only devices that are managed, right? Or what we call join to the domain, where basically, that Windows computer that you have, that Mac OS, computer you have, we can see it from an IT administrator perspective. Oh, looks like we lost one. And there's a variety of different ways. We haven't talked about device management. We haven't talked about, certificate management, installing certificates. How does one authenticate against a, a network that belongs to a company? And clearly the device you're coming from isn't managed by them, right? We're not going to get into that, but there's a variety of different tools out there that companies can use to ascertain and manage devices, either devices that they own or devices that you bring that can then be extended to provide a small form of management, right? To the company that you're working for, where they can provide you access to company resources, but they don't have full control over the device, but they still are enforcing certain controls. What's it called? Certain controls that that they want present on that device. Is encryption turned on? Did a complex enough password has been set, right? Have you, more importantly, if it's a company-owned device, right? Are there certain things on, the device that, prove that the device is being managed and owned by the company, right? And usually that comes down to, there's like a cert on there that only the company can create that is present on the device. Is it joined to the domain, right? Like when you, look at your PC, is it connected to your company's domain, or is it just simply unaffiliated with any, with any domain at all, right? So, we'll go over that in maybe another stream, like device management. What does that look like? What options do you have as an IT administrator, especially if you're barely starting out with device management? But a couple of things that you need to understand, with kind of tying it back to identity and identity access management and all that stuff, is that in my previous example of accessing those files, right? One of those controls could be leveraging is the device managed? And if you're, the user is trying to access that shared drive from a managed device, then go ahead and let them have access to it, right? The reason why I'm talking about this is because at the end of the day, you're still using some form of an identity, right? Usually it comes in the form of like a company domain affiliated identity, right? Like for me, I work for Microsoft, so the identity that I often use most of the times with Microsoft is an internal, what we call an alias name, right? It's a combination usually of my name. That's how most companies do it. And then, ending with an identity that ends with, at Microsoft.com or something like that, right? And by using that identity, the fact that it's tied to a domain that's managed by Microsoft, I can then prove that I work for this company, right? And thereby, depending on what my role is, tied whatever access has been tied to my identity, I can then turn around and access whatever resources I need in order to do my work. Okay. Read, sure, whatever. So that's why identity, at least from a worker perspective, is so important, right? We can certainly take the conversation in a lot of different directions, right? If you're an administrator, okay, so what does that identity mean to you, right? Like most people are more concerned about creating and maintaining a store of identities, right? I talked a little bit about the military, how they use identities usually to grant access to computers, to systems, right? You have to go through this whole process of requesting access, in order to gain access to certain systems that are affiliated with the DoD, right? And usually what that is in the background is just someone that's managing their on-prem Active Directory, their identity store. It's their job to put in like an entry and grant you the necessary rights in order to access that system and resource or whatever, right? Okay. So, that's on the administrative side. On the user side, generally you care about is, most people care about is logging into systems with an identity that you've been given, and then making sure that you can do the work you can, right? That usually comes down to, email. If your company uses Office 365, can you access Office 365? The media company I was talking about, are you able to access the shared drive where all the assets are at? That kind of stuff, right? So for most folks, identity really isn't really that big of a deal, but it is a big deal from a cybersecurity perspective, right? And the reason why I'm going all through all this is because this is why identity access management is important. Okay, let's just take Office 365 for example, right? Because generally, that's how I introduce people to Azure AD, Entra ID, the whole concept of cloud-powered identity, right? when you log into Office 365, right? When you log into Word.com, or you go to download your, your Office suite, you have to log in first into the Office portal, right? What you're using to log in is an identity that is managed by either your organization that has licenses for your Office 365 account, right? Where's everyone? Okay. It's either managed by your organization, or let's wait until to see what this tank is going to do. There you go. It's either managed by your organization, right? Or you could set it up yourself, right? You could buy yourself an Office 365 license, and what will end up happening is that you're given access. You're going to be given like a username and password by Microsoft to log in as the very first person within a tenant that you've created for yourself when you buy an Office 365 subscription. Okay. That identity is what ties everything together, right? The fact that you can log in is already big, but more importantly, that identity that you log in, especially when you first set up Office 365, is particularly powerful, right? Because normally speaking, you're given what we call a global admin role, which is basically God mode in your Office 365. You can make any changes you want to. You can do whatever it is you want to. You can create users. You can delete users. You can create mailboxes. You can assign licenses. So on and so forth, right? And that's why that's why you need a mechanism in order to control and create those users, right? Like, that doesn't just come out of nowhere. There's the ability to create users, the ability to assign rights and roles and permissions. That all requires some form of a system underneath it in order to define those identities, tie it to the products, and federate it to the solutions that the identity is being used at, and then to have some form of governance around those identities. And that's where identity access management kind of comes into play, right? That's where products like Azure Active Directory come into play. Competing products like Okta, Ping, a bunch of other IDPs out there whose sole purpose is to provide an identity and in mechanisms in order to tie that identity to products that you want to use, right? Because the most common complaint that we'll all get as users is there's way too many usernames, way too many passwords. I can't remember it all. Company, I need you to help me out, or I'm just gonna go ahead and just start writing down username and passwords in pieces of paper, which for obvious security reasons is not preferred, right? All I gotta do is think about the Hawaii false alert with the siren and everything. And I remember seeing a news segment where they're interviewing some dude in front of his computer, and you can see behind that person that there's a sticky note on the computer, on the monitor, that lists out the username and password for that person, right? So stuff like that. One of the things we talk about in Microsoft, the reason why we've been pushing people towards passwordless, I talked a little bit about security tokens and whatnot last stream. The reason why is because one of the things that research has shown is that most users, the more you throw on more requirements for their passwords, password length, password strength, all that stuff, right? And needing to change the password every 30 minutes. The more likely the more requirements and you put on top of that, password or username password, the more likely the user is going to take a step away and just, basically just ignore all the basic, security best practices, right? Am I supposed to attack these guys? I think so. Yeah, let's go ahead and kill these guys. Okay. Okay. There we go. Let's make sure we can. Oh, let's take out that one guy. There we go. Okay, that was easy. So yeah, that's why identity access management is important, right? The days of skeleton keys and the same password being used is one that's being actively addressed by all the security vendors out there. We all understand that users will, generally speaking, that's the common theme you'll see in cybersecurity, right? From a security perspective, you can maximize and make everything as secure as much as possible, but there are two considerations you need to still consider, right? You still need to consider availability and ease of use, right? And then because if you make it too hard for people to use, then they're not gonna actually use it, right? They're not gonna step through all of the security loops and gates and all that stuff in order to do their work, right? They're just gonna either find a way to either get around the security controls, or they're not gonna use the resource at all, right? And that's a common fact. And the last thing most workers are want to do when they show up to work, or even users in general, can you imagine TikTok requiring a second factor in order to register, and then also requiring a complex password in order for you to get in there? It's gonna affect adoption, which is the whole antithesis of most social media systems, right? So you need to make security, at the end of the day, security is still there to help the business, right? It is there to help the business stay secure and protect themselves without reducing their ability to make money, to do their operations, to do everything they need to as part of their whatever, right? And so security is constantly I'm gonna have to go through all the different stuff. Security is all about balancing the needs of the users versus the needs of the organization, right? The needs of the organization usually involve stuff such as, preventing data theft, preventing unauthorized access, that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, you have users in the same company who, if you throw enough requirements at them, they're going to find ways to either circumvent them or, completely ignore it outright, right? And one of those being password complexity, right? You make it too hard for a user to stay in compliance with your password policy, you're going to find users who are going to start reusing the same password, or finding, really easily guessable passwords that they can easily remember. And they're going to not practice the security habits and fundamentals that you've been trying to teach them in terms of staying secure, right? Because at the end of the day, all they want to do is just work and get their work done. That's it. Okay. And so that's the reason why identity access management, identity as a service, has risen, because solutions such as Azure Active Directory, Entra ID, Okta, Ping, Federate, all that stuff, they offer this ability for you to create these identities in the cloud, and then more importantly, federate them across multiple different solutions and products and software services, right? So that you only need one identity in order to log into every single one of these, right? Even something as simple as MFA, you throw too many MFA prompts at someone, they're going to just simply ignore it and stop working or using and accessing whatever they want, right? This concept called MFA fatigue internally that we talk a lot about, right? So, single sign-on, federation, identity governance, all that is part and parcel, and why identity as a service, identity access management, is such an integral part of cybersecurity today, right? And it touches every single aspect that you do in normal life, right? At work, obviously it's the identity, the corporate or work identity that you use to access everything, right? To get your work done. But also in your personal life, right? Like I said earlier at the beginning of the stream, when you log into Office 365, when you log into TikTok, when you log into Twitch, when you log into Facebook, whatever, those are all identities that can, that is managed or used, have varying functionality depending on what, that service is, right? Facebook is a good example where they attempted to use your Facebook identity and provide SSO experiences, single sign-on experiences, for all these different other services that support Facebook sign-in, right? So when you log into, say, Strava or another online service, and they offer integration with Facebook's identity, now it's one less username and password for you to remember. All you need to do is just simply log in using Facebook, and then you as a user don't really care what's happening in the background, but there's a trust relationship happening between Facebook and Strava, so that Strava will accept a Facebook identity in place of a normal username and password that Strava would be managing, right? It does, it does a lot. There's a lot of benefits, right? From a user perspective, again, there's one less username and password for you to worry about. It's using the same identity and authentication you use for a different, social media platform. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to, prove yourself and pass authentication through Strava's system as long as you have a valid session with Facebook, right? On Strava's side, especially from an administrative perspective, now it's one less thing for me as an administrator to worry about, because now I don't have to manage a separate identity store for you, right? I have this trust relationship with Facebook that if there's a problem with your identity, you can't get in, whatever. That's Facebook's problem, not mine, right? And obviously, I'm talking at high level. There's a lot of other different benefits out there. I don't have to maintain a username and password for you separately that I need to protect as Strava, right? And again, all that is tied back to Facebook. And if you have a problem with how I'm storing your credentials, I would point you straight back to Facebook and say, hey, look, we have a federation or we have a trust relationship with Facebook, which you use to log in to Strava in the first place, right? So it simplifies operations, simplifies identity management on the administrative side. So all great, good stuff all around, and that's why identity management has become such a big thing going forward, right? Now, that obviously, I haven't talked anything about security, right? How do you secure resources using identity as the control plane? That I covered that in a previous, stream. We don't have to go over that again here, but something as simple as playing Final Fantasy 14 and ensuring that the security of your account is solid, right? Again, this comes back to your identity, right? Square Enix maintains a whole list of user accounts that are tied to a Final Fantasy account. And how you protect that, right? Like one of the options that you have to further protect the account is enabling MFA, right? So, for example, I have to, I mentioned this earlier, I have to input an MFA code every time I want to log into, Final Fantasy 14. Again, that at the end of the day, that is Square Enix providing some form of an identity to us players, right? And then providing the additional security feature sets in order for us to protect ourselves from people trying to, hack or, compromise my account and steal all my stuff, right? So, yeah, identity is all around us. Identity is part of our everyday, not jobs, but our everyday experiences on the internet. I'm trying to find the journal. I'm trying to find. Is this the? Yeah, fractal continuum. Fractal continuum, and there was something else, wasn't there? Okay, let's just focus on fractal continuum. Okay. There it is. Clear selection. Let's go ahead and join this duty. Well, okay, awesome. 11 minutes. That sucks. Identity isn't everything that we do, right? And normally, what I tell people when they ask me, what can I start doing to protect myself? My first instinct is to tell them, okay, do you have any idea what identity you're using online, and how many of them have been compromised or how protected they are? Because the usual reason why attackers will dump something like username and passwords, even if in the hash form, from those famous hacks that hit the news, is to gain more and more username and password combinations in order for them to try against systems that are publicly available, right? What we call skeleton keys, using the same credential username and password combination across multiple different services, is a very rampant problem, because obviously no one wants to have to remember 10 different passwords to multiple different identities. They'll often, users will often use, and I can't blame them, right? I used to do the same thing, so and I've definitely changed up my strategy since then, right? So, but there's a lot of people out there that use the same username and password, or even worse, use very guessable passwords or passcodes to protect the systems and access that they that they work with, or they use day in, day out, right? what's it called? I'm sure that there are plenty of iPhones out there, for example, or Android phones that use a very basic, passcode that users have set themselves, just so that they can just get into their iPhone. They have no idea. They really don't care whatsoever about security of the device itself. Attackers know that common dates and common codes such as birthdays, anniversary dates, lucky numbers, commonly used numbers like 777-000-111-2222-333, whatever, right? Those are very common phrases that everyone uses in order to not think about, what they're entering into their phone in order to get in there, right? The importance of utilizing different passwords and different passcodes across multiple different services is not going to be a feasible one, and I think that's what a lot of identity access management solutions have realized, is that, hey, look, there's a gap here, and so I can provide that type of access, that easy access, without compromising the security of those accounts, right? For example, getting into the Azure AD portion of the stream, of the discussion, Microsoft, whenever you're accessing something that is behind an Azure AD account, there's a lot of things happening in the background. One, obviously, there's a lot of tools that admins can enforce and put into place in order for users to practice proper security, right? MFA is one of them. What's called single sign-on, and leveraging the idea of trusted devices is another, right? If I authenticate using a device that I should have on me, like a phone, I don't need to continually reprompt the user of that phone in order to prove who they say they are, right? There's this concept of cross verification or trusted devices, where if it's something you have and you're able to authenticate into the phone, hence why the PIN for your iPhone or your Android phone is so important. That PIN is only valid for that particular device, and if you're able to authenticate into the phone, then that's a trust relationship I can take advantage of by loosening the requirements of how often you authenticate coming from that phone or device, right? Windows Hello for Business is a great example, where if you're authenticating or if you add your work account, that is Azure AD, Azure Active Directory, into your device, one of the things you can take advantage of if you have a TPM and you're running Windows 10 or 11 is taking advantage of Windows Hello for Business, where you're registering your account your work account on the device, right? You register the device with your organization or your IT administrator or whatever, right, as a trusted device. And then if you notice, when you do that, for those of you who've already gone through Windows Hello for Business, you're required to set up a PIN in order for you to control access to your device, right? So even if your phone or your computer is stolen, you still need to know the PIN in order to get inside the device, right? But again, that's increasing the cost for the attacker in order to compromise your account, right? Once you get into the device, obviously you have carte blanche access that you can abuse the trust relationship, right? Again, the whole idea here is not to re-challenge the device or the user if they're coming from a trusted device every single time they need to access Office 365 or federated apps such as Salesforce or Dropbox or whatever, right? So you're achieving the requirement of making it super easy for a user. However, you're still not compromising security, because there's a lot of different hoops that the user needs to jump through, even though they don't understand, they don't know that they're actually doing it, right? One, they need to authenticate into, let's take another step back. One, they need the device, right? So, especially a phone, you need the device, right? You can't just simply log into Office 365 or whatever accounts that, that trusted device is tied to, just with the username and password, right? If you have the device, that creates that trust relationship. That's step one. Two, you need to authenticate into the device, right? So that PIN that I was talking about, that is only valid for the device itself. You need to know that and authenticate successfully into that device in order for you to gain access to all the federated, access that is tied to that device, right? In the meantime, while I'm talking about this, I'm just going to go ahead and do just side missions here. Let's see. Locate the Red Bill Standard. Okay, cool. That sounds good. So this is one of the few places that I think I can fly here. If I remember correct, yeah, it's over here. Okay, it's on the northwest side of it. Okay. Oh, wait, no, I cannot fly. Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Then how do I get there? I'm guessing that there's a thing I have to go touch. Okay. While I'm figuring this out, so, again, what's happening in the background is a lot of different things, right? I need the device in order to log in. I need to log into the device itself using the PIN that only I know, right? And it's only, like I can't just... The reason why I keep bringing up with the fact that the PIN is tied to the device, is only tied to the device, is because there are certainly attacks out there where, say, for example, if I were to put down a certificate that says, hey, look, I trust this device, what if an attacker were to steal the device and then, more importantly, somehow find a way to steal that certificate so that I can use that in other devices to authenticate, right? That's a possible, that's absolutely a possibility, right? Especially if it was a certificate generated by your organization or your team, right? And so the reason why the PIN is only valid for that device itself is because if another device that you own is stolen, you can't simply reuse the same password, PIN, certificate, key, whatever on that other device where my account is also on as well, right? I actually need to know the device that is tied, or I need to know the PIN that is tied to that device and only that device only. Okay. What the hell is this for? Okay. Just kind of stepping through the quest. Okay. Oh, okay, here we go. Alright. Let's see. Alright, so we kind of went down the path of just kind of local identity access management. But that's what allows someone like me, who a user's yelling at and saying, hey, make authentication easier for me. That's how I'm able to provide that functionality while not compromising the security stance of my organization, right? Because again, in order for you to get into Office 365 using the full power of Azure AD, you need the device. You need to log into the device using the PIN that's tied to the device, right? Assuming you can log into the device. Hello. Okay. What's it called? When I authenticate into Office 365, when I log into Azure or whatever, or OneDrive or a federated app that Azure AD is sitting in front of, right? Those two things have already happened, right? I have a device that is trusted. I've authenticated into the device, right? Now, in addition to that, you can also throw in additional checks, right? Is this person logging in from your usual location, right? Are they coming from a trusted location, right? Are they coming from an IP address or a location where the company usually, where the company would expect you to log in from, right? So very different for me to access Office 365 coming from a Microsoft, subnet, for example, right? Or Microsoft network or IP address versus me being in Canada and trying to log in at 1 a.m. in the morning, even though it looks like I'm coming from a valid device, and I was able to authenticate into the device, right? So again, that's only available if you have an identity access management platform in place to help you protect yourself and put those controls in place before a user is able to access that resource, right? Going back to the media, media company example I was talking about, one good example is if you've got media assets, hosted in a OneDrive, right? If this is a cloud-based, kind of model. That's right. Okay. Oh, this is the quest I failed at earlier when I was still trying to tank, right? So hopefully I have a better chance at this now that I'm going in my full power as a DPS. Okay. Side panel. Alright, cool. I'm just gonna follow the tank. Gonna follow the tank. Here we go. Okay. Let's do a better job than I did as a tank in my previous stream here. Oh, hello. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay. Exciting. Oh, I can't use the... Did I not learn this? Oh, wait, because I'm... Oh, hello. My bad. Okay. It's so much easier being a DPS, dude. I have way less to think about as a DPS. I just gotta put out damage, that's all. Let's lock this guy out. There we go. Cool. Alright. Okay. Oh. There we go. There we go. A lot of enemies. I guess I was just too low level when I was trying to do this as a tank, honestly. No, almost there. Yeah, I think we're gonna be able to get through this just fine. Here we go. There we go. Cool. Yeah. It's so much easier when you've got an experienced tank. I think I'm going to stay off tank for a little bit. Alright, here we go. This is my first time. Well, no, it's not my first time. It is my first time coming through after post-game. So. Okay. Seals quickly. Go. Phantom Ray, huh? Oh. Oh, frick. Oh my goodness. Wow. Still fairly early on in the Final Fantasy 14 journey. I know the mechanics get even tougher. The farther down I'm gonna go, but yeah, I'll be ready by the time that gets there. Oh, okay. Go. Go. We're getting to use the oops. No. It's already starting to get warm in my room, man. I don't know if you could hear the fan running in the background, but I've got like 3 fans going on here just to keep myself cool. Like I said, I'm hoping my first chance to try it will be with Overwatch this Friday. Back up here. Yep. Since I do have Overwatch on Xbox. For those of you PC purists out there, I apologize in advance. Like I said, it gets really hot in here, so I really don't care too much if I'm playing Overwatch on PC or Xbox. I am looking forward to Final Fantasy 14 finally coming to Xbox as well. I give a... No, whatever. Cool. I don't really need it, actually. Should have greeted it. Let's go, let's go. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. But yeah, for those of you still trying to get into cybersecurity, identity access management, or just identity management in general, is one of those cybersecurity. I talked a little bit about during my CSSP stream that like every single one of the domains in the CSSP can be a career unto itself. There are literally identity administrators out there whose sole careers is just managing and governing identities within the companies that they work for. Okay, so the reason why I even came up with this topic was, again, I saw quite a few folks asking, "Oh, how do I get more experience in identity access management?" Well, part of it's just learning what does tools like Azure AD, Enter ID do, right? What are all the capabilities, right? Because creating identities and managing identities is only like the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of other things you can be doing on the identity space. Not least of all, using identity again as that plane of control in order to protect the assets that you have in this cloud first environment, right? Where everything is out in the internet, and you're trying to solve the problem of how do I keep my assets secure while still keeping it out in the internet, right? I talked a lot about in previous streams how using the identity as that perimeter now is the way forward when it comes to zero. That's the whole reason for zero trust, right? Is that no matter where you're coming from, no matter what you are, I am going to put in specific requirements that you need to pass from an identity perspective before you're able to get access to whatever asset that you're trying to access, right? Go. The only downside I have about this game is that there are just so many flashy things going on, and I've noticed that it's something that Final Fantasy has started doing ever since the I first really noticed it in Kingdom Hearts 2, honestly. I remember getting to this point. Yep. Let's go ahead and do burn some of this stuff here. There we go, right? But yeah, I've noticed that just Square Enix in general, I don't think it's really particular to Final Fantasy, but I say Final Fantasy primarily because, Kingdom Hearts is associated with Final Fantasy. But just the games themselves and the attacks when you get into combat is just much more flashier than I remember it being. It's harder to kind of, it's kind of harder to follow along, honestly. I'll be honest, because there's just so much stuff going on screen. So hopefully if the folks watching this will have a little bit more a little bit more luck tracking what the hell I'm doing here as part of this this duty here. Alright, let's see if we can down this Minotaur pretty quickly here. Build those seals. Oops. Okay. Oh, hello. Let's get back in there. There we go. Oops. I remember fighting this guy. Yeah. Okay. Build those seals. Build those seals. Let's throw that on. All I gotta do is just deal out damage. That's it, man. All I gotta do. I know there's probably other folks out there that are yelling at me, "You need to be doing more!" Dude, I'm just a noob when it comes to this game. Guessing I gotta kill that guy first, so he doesn't recover whatever. There we go. There we go. that. Almost. Oh, okay, we're done. Cool. I remember getting to this part, yeah, because, yeah, this is such a long, it's such a long duty. I remember looking at the, oh, there we go. Yes. Let's get in here. I remember looking at the list on the right side, and I'm like, oh crap, we're nowhere near. Shortcut. Okay, where am I going? I'm just gonna follow the tank here. Cool. Yes. Let's use the transporter. All right. Clockwork Predator. Okay. Guessing that was okay. Okay. Yes. Here we go. Alright, cool. Awesome. Defense Protocol version 1 disengaging. Nice. Okay. Well, I'm kind of going through this. Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of folks online just asking, well, how do I get more access? You know, there's a lot of information out there. And honestly, I guess this is a good time to talk a little about what resources are out there for folks trying to get into cybersecurity but need a little bit more experience. There are tons and tons of resources out there that, you know, folks trying to get into IT can take advantage of that really don't require too much, you know, money, honestly. Azure, for example, you know, if you sign up for Azure, the cloud itself, the account that you sign up for will include, I think, $200 free credits towards your Azure, you know, tenant, right? So you can stand up Azure stuff, play around with it. You know, you don't have to worry about, you know, being billed. If you do, just keep an eye on, you know, what you're, you know, billing against your tenant, right? It'll require you to put down, like, I think a credit card or something like that in case you go over the $200, you know, limit. But yeah, standing up a new Azure, you know, account will give you $200 free, you know, monthly credit towards your Azure tenant, right? So you can go there, you can stand up stuff like, you know, Azure Active Directory, your own identity access management, you know, literally, quite literally, the moment you get your first, you know, account into your tenant, you actually already have an Azure Active Directory instance that you can play with, right? So very powerful, especially if you're trying to get into a company and they're looking for identity access management person, someone skilled in identity, you can get the basics of identity access management right from the get-go using pretty much free resources, you know, that are available to you out there today, right? Usually where most people kind of struggle, geez, these guys are. I'm gonna guess there's no way for us to kill those. Let's go ahead and kill this guy first. Right. I mean, if I was still trying to get into the industry, what I would be doing is standing up my own lab in Azure, making sure that my monthly spend doesn't go over $200, and then I would, whatever product I'm trying to get more, you know, learning on, I would go ahead and just stand it up in Azure and play around with it, break it, you know, stand up whatever it is you need to, and so on and so forth, right? Specifically for identity access management, you know, standing up your own tenant, again, you get access to an Azure AD, you know, tenant right off the bat. How the hell do I get over there? How do I get over? Oh, Scheitze, my bad. I hope they're not waiting for me too long. Sorry. There's a thing right there. Okay, come Come on. Okay, here we go. I think that's cool. One of these days, I gotta do research on this whole the dungeon. You know, where does it fit within the story? All that stuff, right? I know it's like supposed to represent. You know, let's go ahead and kill these guys first. Okay. There we go. There we go. That doesn't look good. Let's get away from that. Oh, holy? That's interesting. There we go. Gotta optimize my damage output. Oh, let's get out of there. Okay, come on, burn it. Thank you. Go. Oh, a little too far. I don't know what that thing's for. Better not. Oh, so he's called the Curator. Okay, that's cool. Shit. Ow. Jeez, that hurt a lot. Oh no. Jeez. Okay. Well, I don't feel so bad feeling the last one. Let's go ahead. It happens. Okay. I hope this brings us back to... Wait. Oh, crud. Ah! I'm lost! Okay, yeah. I'm gonna guess I need to go to this one? I hope so. Yep, okay, this looks better. And then I gotta go here. Okay, hold on. Sprint, sprint, sprint! Here we go. Alright, cool. Go. We were almost there. I think we got him to like about a fifth of his life. There we go. Where are those? There they are. Go. It's there. There we go, there we go. Burn that. About halfway through. Unholy. Oh, okay. These guys. Cool. Oh, hell. Ow. There we go. Come on, baby. I don't want to pull the limit break yet. Almost there. I think we're okay. Yeah, we're not gonna need a limit break. Okay, cool. Good, cool beans. Cool beans. That's a kind of a freaky design. Yay! Yay! Okay, cool. 10 elegans, tombstones. Cane, what is this? Cane long kilt. Nope. Either one of these aren't gonna. Breaker. Red mage. Oh, these are for conjures. Okay. Read. Pass. Alright, let's go. Cool. Yay. Alright, now where do I go? For that particular one. Sky Pirates. Nope. Where is it? Is it this one? Okay, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have to go here. Helix. Okay, cool. But yeah, I guess just to finish off the point about identity access management, you know, like I said, if I was kind of, I mean, when I was still learning identity access management, obviously, right? It took a lot of lab time, a lot of tinkering around. Standing up your own your identity directory is usually just the first step. You know, then we start getting into, at least for specifically Azure Active Directory, you start getting into this concept called conditional access. I taught a little bit about, you know, setting requirements that people need to pass in order to access something. For example, coming from a specific location, coming from a managed device. What other controls can we put out there? You know, does the user have the necessary roles in order to access it? Are they coming at a specific certain time? You know, all those different requirements that you can set, or controls you can set in place as authentication is happening. That's all part of functionality that something like Azure Active Directory or even Okta can do, right? And so part of your lab time would be sitting down there, standing up Azure Active Directory, you know, playing around with all the different controls, you know, what's it called? Testing out whether users, you know, creating guest users, test users, testing out whether some of the things that you're doing on the identity side, how will it affect the person or your test users' access. Federating identities over to applications, that's another big one too, right? That's when you start getting into, you know, protocols such as SAML, setting up connectors between, you know, your identity service as well as the solution, right? The great thing about Microsoft is that a lot of the stuff there is already pre-configured, right? There's no need for you to create a connector for, say, Office 365, SharePoint, Teams, whatever, once you've stood up, you know, Azure Active Directory, because it's all just built from the same you know, platform, right? Whereas if I'm setting up you know, an integration or federation with Salesforce, where I want to log into Salesforce using an Azure Active Directory identity, then you need to, you know, go down the path of, okay, what is it, you know, what information does Salesforce need from Azure AD? What does Azure AD need in order to work with Salesforce, to, you know, registering the application within Azure Active Directory, setting up the SAML connector, and then, you know, configuring, you know, if you want to even go down the path of user synchronization, right? Account lifecycle management. that's all part of something that Azure AD can do, right? You know, and I'm just using Azure AD as an example. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I think there's a lot of value that you can get as someone going into cybersecurity just by standing up Azure AD and just playing around with it in your lab, okay? Because the great thing about a lot of cloud technologies is that once you learn one technology, you can generally, you know, transfer a lot of that skill set over to another technology. If I want to specialize in Okta, you know, yes, I need to understand how Okta does things. You know, what does the configuration look like in Okta? But the concept of identity management, user management, federation, all that stuff, that's still the same, right? The only difference is how does Okta do it versus Azure AD, and how does Ping Federate do versus Okta, right? You know, if you are someone who has had on-prem work, right, and experience managing an on-prem Active Directory, a lot of it's still the same, right? You know, standing up your own Azure AD instance or tenant also gives you access to Azure AD Connect, which is the synchronization tool between on-prem AD and Azure Active Directory, right? So, you know, you will have the capability to, you know, grab that tool, throw it down if you have an on-prem AD to test it out with, and just see what it looks like, right? You know, in terms of synchronizing those identities up into Azure AD, right? One of the most common challenges would be moving from on-prem to cloud would be, okay, well, you know, one of the common questions I get is, will I have to like create and redo all my identities from on-prem onto the cloud? Luckily, there's lots and lots of tools out there, and even partners, right, that specialize in, you know, not necessarily migrating, but at least standing up the cloud portion of your, you know, your. Wait, was I able to? I'm sorry. Hold on. Give me a moment here. Ugh. Sky Pirates. Yeah, that's in a completely different Sea of Clouds. My bad. I wonder though if I could just simply fly all the way over there. Let's try it. Okay, let's try it. Mostly because I have nothing really better to do. Oh my. Oh my. Yep, I discovered a new location. Is it above me? I think it's above me. Oh my lord. Okay. Yeah, let's see what's up here. Let's go up. Let's go up. Okay. This is actually pretty fun. I'm pretty sure there's no real reason for me to be in this location unless I'm exploring. Okay. But like I said, I mean, there's so many free stuff out there, right? And if you need to, you know, a little bit of hand holding, right, to stand up your own, you know, instance, you know, feel free to reach out to me. It's fairly simple. I'm gonna be honest, right? Let's see what happens when I attack this guy. Not too bad. Okay. Because at the end of the day, you need, in order to stand up something in Office 365, or I'm sorry, in Azure, you just need licenses, right? You can easily go, like, if you go search online, look up, you know, try Azure, right? Just look up try Azure. There's probably the first two hits are going to be documentation and also landing pages for Azure Active Directory and Azure in general, right? Where it'll tell you, hey, look, yes, you can send up your own version of your own tenant of Azure, and yes, it will come up with $200 worth of credits, right? You know, obviously, this is just, you know, to help get you interested in Azure, right? And start using our stuff more often, so that when you do start deploying it more, you know, seriously, especially at scale, you know, a lot of other offerings that we have, you know, certainly would exceed the $200 credit. But that's the whole idea, is that, you know, we want you familiarized with our technology so that you can make a good decision and see why you know, what the pros and cons of working with Azure is, right? Let's get off my bike here. It's also called the Chocobo. Level 60 Sphinx. Well, let's attack it. Okay. But, you know, even for those not in the business of investigating new technology for your job, again, there's a lot of value to be had by taking advantage of all these free resources. The documentation of Microsoft, there's a lot of criticisms, I think, and a lot of them are valid, right? There's a lot of criticisms about how Microsoft manages their software and their solutions, but one thing I don't think anyone can really fault is how thorough our documentation is. Yes, some of it is outdated. Yes, some of it definitely requires some improvement. But for the most part, especially from the security perspective, I think our documentation is really, really extensive, and you can learn a lot just reading through it or even just following along. What the documentation has, right? Even some of the documentation, especially from Azure AD, will help you stand up your own tenant with a test license, right? So again, learn.microsoft.com. I think that's the current URL. Again, a lot of great information there. I often tell people that my real personal, my real expertise is really just being a really good, Googler or really good Bing searcher, because the truth is that a lot of information is out there. Even going back to something at CISSP, I tell people, look, I only studied just so I can pass CISSP. The domain knowledge itself, all of it is easily searchable, and really the value you bring as an IT practitioner or whatever is your ability to quickly find that information and turn that into business value. Okay, you're paid to be a technical expert, and some of it obviously is looking up stuff. Some of it also is testing stuff out in your environment, right? Hence why I'm talking about setting up your own lab environment in what's it called? In Azure, right? You do not know how to operate the terminal. What the hell did I even get? Do it for Gilly. All matcher. I did see I did get like something in my inventory. Let's take a look. This thing right here. Accompaniment node. Oh, okay. It's a minion. Okay, well, I guess. Sure. Whatever. Okay. I think this is a good place to stop, actually, and we're coming on the top of the hour. Got to watch me play a little bit of Final Fantasy 14, go through a couple of duties. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and head back to a town, so maybe I might be able to. Blah blah blah. Mordana. Nope. Foundation. Let's go to Foundation. Let's see if I have enough to pick up a new piece of gear. Okay, there we are. So for those of you who don't play Final Fantasy 14, every time you hit the end game of every expansion, it seems like you need to level up your gear. Well, okay, let me take it back. You have the opportunity to level up your gear to max out the item level so that you're buffing, you're maximizing the strength of your character as much as possible, right? So as you can see on the right side, I was able to grab all the accessories that are level 240. I think 250 is the top for Heaven's Word. I'm probably wrong, but all my actual armor is definitely under leveled except for my jacket here, my jacket and my katana, right? So that's where I'm at right now. I'm still trying. I'm basically just farming for what we call poetics, so that I have enough to buy, for lack of anything better, to buy this gear from this vendor which you can find in most of the towns that offer higher level gear, higher item level gear that will allow me to replace much of the stuff. Okay, so let's take a look here. I probably don't have enough, but let's take a look. Let's Shire gear. Yeah. I do have enough. 420. 420. Yay. All right. What do I want to do first? Probably the most expensive one. So probably I could save up the hose, but I think I've got better. I've always been like, if you can afford the better gear, buy it now, so that you can most likely be able to take on the bigger challenges later on down the line. So let's buy. I think all of them are. What's the biggest one? 78, 78. All of them are 78. Okay. Fine. Let's do the headband. All right. Cool. All right. Let's put headband on. What does it even look like? The reason why I can't look at it from try on. Oh goodness. Oh my. How do I zoom in? Reset display. Display gear. Display gear. Yeah, cool. Well, that looks a little bit better. I'm sure there's someone in here that, you know, if only I had someone in my followers that could tell me exactly how to zoom in, I'd do it, but it's not. It looks dumb anyway from what I can tell, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw the glamour plate back on. There we go. Cool. All right. All right, and with that, I guess this is a good place to stop. Thanks again for joining me. For today's stream. Like I said, not a lot of people in the stream today, but that's okay. I never do these streams chasing followers. Again, this is primarily for folks who are interested in that intersection between gaming and cybersecurity. It's a good chance for me to talk a little bit about my career, what goes on in terms of my considerations when I'm designing these cybersecurity, these security solutions or whatever. Like I said, if you're watching this video after the fact, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thanks again for joining me. My name is Jan Ignacio. I'll see you in the next stream. Next stream is Thursday. I'll be streaming the Pokemon trading card game. I still got to figure out what topic I want to talk about during that stream, but hopefully it'll be a good one, okay? Thanks again. Talk to you soon, and enjoy your day. Thanks for joining me. Thanks. Bye.